So we come to the concluding portion, beautifully with the psychic being. So people often ask, they feel soul is a supernumerary. It just goes from life to life, poor fellow. It's only some karma, it has to suffer. If it has done good deeds, it will get a seat in heaven. If it has done some bad deeds, it will suffer. Double suffering and double enjoyment. First in heaven and hell. This double tribunal is somewhere, nowhere there. And then again on earth it has to be born either with a silver spoon or with a, mud ball. But we don't know which is really a better fate. As we know, since we spoke about Socrates, when his last words in his final speech, long speech, he says, "Gentlemen, I go to the shadows and you stay here, but whose fate is better? Who knows?" That's the punchline. We think born with a silver spoon as a Rajkumar is a better fate. But maybe a Rajkumar doesn't progress. Or progresses very slowly, is hampered on every side. But a person born in a little village, growing up in that, may progress opportunities are much more. So the values of the psychic being are very different. Second, the soul's journey is not about reward, punishment and all that. That in detail Sri Aurobindo will reveal to us in later chapter what is rebirth, karma. But for now, it is on an evolutionary journey. Evolutionary curve, and through all the experiences, there is a line in Savitri, it drinks experience like a strengthening wine. So outward consciousness, it may be pleasure or it may be pain. But the psychic being grows. That's the beauty. So through all the experiences, it grows and becomes stronger and stronger. And why is it growing stronger and stronger? Because this is the most important fellow in us. It is through this that the entire drama is being enacted and will be enacted further. It is the nodus of evolution. As the mother says, it's the wire that connects the body, the lamp. Body mind is like the lamp. And the generator is the divine Shakti. And psychic being is the wire which connects. The whole thing is through psychic being it is happening. But we are not aware of it. So it's not just a silent witness, it's also the controller and master, but it has forgotten that it is the master. So it is Anish instead of Ish. Ish it's a Lord. But in the beginning it is Anish. So it is not Lord. That's what it means. So it's as if covered by night, darkness, sleeping. So awakening of the psychic being, discovery of the psychic being is the first most important step in Sri Aurobindo's yoga. Anything happening before this is fraught with its own problems, which Sri Aurobindo will reveal as we come. And for that we have to step back from the surface soul. If we live prone to likes, dislikes forever with our opinions, viewpoints, egoistic standards, yardsticks, judgments, right, wrong, good, bad, all kinds of things which are useful in ordinary life, but they lose their meaning when we come to this deeper sense. So that's what Sri Aurobindo is revealing us, and we'll read because Abhilash has cautioned me that you say but time you tend to exceed. So let me... Page 239, it's sheer delight. So, Sri Aurobindo uses the word Chaitya Purusha here for the first time, but before that, page 238, he has described the psychic being. Then he says, not the unborn self or Atman with a capital A, for the self, even in presiding over the existence of the individual, is aware always of its universality and transcendence. So what is this Atman? Because Atma, people use Atma for all kinds of things, including horror movies, Atma Ka Ghar. That's all vital. There's nothing to do with soul. So, soul is never afraid, by the way, nor does it scare anyone. It lives in delight. Touch of the soul spontaneously brings delight and peace and love. So that's why one must find the soul. If nothing else, for purely practical purposes, to lead a peaceful and happy life, must find the soul. Stesham sukham saswati neteresham tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira. Okay, the full stoka is like this. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. Kathopanishad. Tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhira. You have to be very steadfast, dhira, patient. It's not something which suddenly miraculous thing. Stesham sukham shashwati netresham. Another one, stesham shantim shashwati netresham. So if we want peace in life, joy in life, we don't have to run to the mountains, but we have to find the soul. Otherwise, even in mountains, there will be reason to be unhappy. So this is the whole thing he has revealed to us. And then he says it is not the unborn self, the Atman. So there is in us now not two souls, he's talking about two selves which are often used as if interchangeable. There is the unborn self which is always there, that portion of Jivatma. In Svetashutar we have this description of the Dwasuparna, the two birds. One is sitting above and enjoying, it is only watching, and the other is sitting on the lower branch and it is eating sweet bitter fruits. When it eats sweet fruit, it's happy. And when it eats the bitter fruit, it's not happy. Now there is this bird sitting always above. It's always in the inalienable delight of the divine. It doesn't descend into the play. And it understands, even though it has the individual, it presides over the individual evolution. That's the central being in us. So there is the Jivatma which is forever with the Lord, and in typical traditional yogas, that's what one focuses upon. But this is, the psychic being has descended as a ray from there into this play of ignorance. Why it has descended? Because now each of us have to become that fullness of the divine, that perfection of the divine has to be reclaimed. There it remains as a potential, though it is out of the scene. But here it has entered into the play, and through the play it grows. So he will reveal all this in great detail. So it is yet its deputy in the forms of nature. Whose deputy? Deputy of the central being. So the Jivatma is there, as well as something of it has entered here into the play. So it is like when your child is playing in a game. You are not playing. You have trained the child, and later on you will train again that look, you should have done this. But when the child is playing, you are experiencing all that, but experiencing from outside. So the central being is outside the play, but psychic being is actually playing in the play. So what is the central being's job? A good parent's job when you are seeing your child playing. When the child loses, you may say, oh, but actual role is when the child comes, it's okay. Come, get up again. Child is crying because, his coveted prize is taken away. So there is the desired self, soul, and there is the true soul. And this psychic being is, this Jivatman, which is outside time and space, is encouraging it, helping it to move along, to once again try, strive. That's what good parents do. They don't keep pointing out the mistakes, they keep pointing out the possibilities, and the child grows. So, then the word Sri Aurobindo uses, the individual soul, Chaitya Purusha, supporting mind, life and body, standing behind the mental, the vital, the subtle physical being in us, and watching and profiting by their development and experience. So that's what Sri Aurobindo says. When people come, Mother says, when people come to the ashram first time, it's always, I think people should read it. Mother had written that it's a pamphlet which should be given to everybody when they come to the ashram for the first time, to stay, not just to visit. So it was an advice to newcomers. He says when people come here, they come under the stress of the psychic. So what happens? What does psychic do? Since it makes the mind wide. So you spontaneously, when you see things, you understand in a different way. It makes the mind wide. It fills the heart with sweetness and goodwill. So everybody appears to a saint. Everybody is wonderful. Because you see that part. You are full of that psychic element. So we come in tune with that in a person. then it fills the life with energy. You feel recharged. And it fills the body with health and strength naturally. Says, but when people live for a long time, then old nature says, I am also here. You have forgotten me. You can't always live in the psychic. You are here for transformation. Then the same person begins to appear. How horrible. Everything, the food which one enjoyed in the dining room. Arey, Roj, same thing. At least they should give rasgulla once in a while. Some change, some tadka. Everything comes back. Same quarrels, everything starts. So she says, what is the solution? That's the important part. She says, get back to the psychic and start influencing these parts with that. She gives the solution. You can't do it any other way. You want the, say, ashram or any group to change, Auroville ashram or any society center or anywhere, find the soul. There is no other way. And she says this in one of her declarations also. And each one who finds automatically facilitates the other because we are all connected. So one may say, if you find, how does it help? No. Also because we'll begin to see much more goodness in another person by the very fact we discover our soul. Because probably it is passing unnoticed. So this is the path that Mother has advised us. It is this secret psychic entity, page 239, middle, which is the true original conscience with a capital C in us, deeper than the constructed and conventional conscience of the moralist. What is the difference? Moralist conscience says, no, right, wrong, based on what my papa told me. What I read in so-and-so book, what Gandhiji told me. I must not kill. Why? Because he told me so. This is the conscience which is a construct of the mind. What does the soul, original conscience? Just to give two examples. If you see a man who is capable and sees that in front of you a woman is being harassed or something, or anybody. So, conscience of Gandhiji will say, whatever it is, you can tell him nicely, you don't lift the arm and you don't do that because ahimsa. But the soul movement will be very different. You may even fight at that point of time, even at the expense of your own life. I know some people like that. Because that's the soul movement, it's the conscience. Why? Because you stand for what is true. So that's what he describes. What is the difference? It's not a construct, it's a momentary. You can't say that every time you must pick up a lathi. No. It is that moment. So she says, Shobindu says that it is not the conscience, conventional conscience of the moralist. For it is this which points always towards truth and right and beauty, right with a capital R, according to the divine will and the divine arrangement. Truth. That I know this truth inside me and I can't contradict it. And beauty. What is a beautiful action? Gross action, crude action, egoistic action, desire-ridden action, we all know. But what I am going to do, my thoughts, my actions, are they really beautiful? Would the Divine Mother really approve of it? Deep inside. So this is what is the difference. It may not be a moral course of action, conventional morality, and yet towards love and harmony and all that is a divine possibility in us, and persist till these things become the major need of our nature. It is the psychic personality in us that flowers as the saint, the sage, the seer. When it reaches its full strength, it turns the being toward the knowledge of self and the divine, towards the supreme truth, the supreme good, the supreme beauty, love and bliss. So that's why these things cannot be forced. The psychic has to reach a reasonable amount of development to feel even the need for these things. Without that, it's not possible. You may forcibly bring somebody to Pondicherry or give a book, but it doesn't work out. But the psychic has to feel the need and urge. And when the time comes, aspiration is born. That is how aspiration enters. On the contrary, Where the psychic personality is weak, crude or ill-developed, the finer parts and movements in us are lacking or poor in character and power. Course to character change and personality change. Find the soul. All else is dikhawa. Yes, sir, please come. You are such a nice person, and inside something else is going on. Now I have sold him a hat. But the psychic doesn't do that. It doesn't feel the need to do that. It is full of goodwill. It cannot even conceive of anything bad or have a will to harm somebody. It's just impossible for the psychic. But where it is crude and poor, even though the mind may be forceful and brilliant, this is important. So, where it is lacking in or poor in character and power, even though the mind may be forceful and brilliant, the heart of vital emotions, hard and strong and masterful. That means not sentimental. The life force dominant and successful. The bodily existence rich and fortunate, and an apparent lord and victor. A person who has become a king, who has, succeeded in life, and he is not easily carried away by any emotions, strong emotions, and he has graduated or post-graduated from some big university, and he is successful and rich. Now, this is what we normally... So, all this may be there, and yet if the psychic being is not developed, it is then the outer desired soul, the pseudo-psychic entity that reigns, and we mistake its misinterpretations of psychic suggestion and aspiration, its ideas and ideals, its desires and yearnings for true soul truth and wealth of spiritual experience. So this is where it happens. We are driven by the desired soul and we think, see, I am so fortunate, everything, God has blessed me, and they do a lot of, even dhan, all these things. Asura can be very generous because it gives him name. He wants his nameplate written when he gives. So all these are maybe there. Sri Aurobindo goes on to say, one may achieve amazing feats in the physical. One may have brilliant illuminations in the mind. One may have siddhis in the vital. And yet if the secret soul has not stepped forward, if one refuses to be a child new born to the Divine Mother, then nothing permanent or genuine is done. So psychic knows it's the child of the Divine Mother. So surrender, aspiration, devotion, love for the divine, gratitude, they all come naturally with psychic. It's not to be told. But their absence is felt in when the psychic is still undeveloped and crude. All else may be there, but this will be felt as if it's missing the most important piece. So then he speaks of, that however it is not enough to just have the psychic discovery. All nature must be slowly transformed. And the psychic being, page 241, the psychic being at a certain stage might be content to create a formation of truth, good and beauty and make that its station. So psychic being can also stop at some point. It has to go further, or it can merge with the divine. It may turn away from earth, say it is full of falsehood, full of ignorance. Earthly life is incorrigible. It may turn. So it has not completed its full development. The original purpose, unity in diversity, it does not know. It may plunge into the sheer unity. So all this is possible. That's why Sri Aurobindo says there is a next stage which has to come. And make that its station. At a farther stage, it might become passively subject to the world self, a mirror of the universal existence, consciousness, power, delight, but not their full participant or possessor. So nature may reflect, but the psychic is inside, untouched or unaffected. One may go anywhere, one may be a Jivan Mukta. Even sometimes a God can descend and take hold of the special circumstances. But yet that is yet not the complete fulfillment. Although more nearly and thrillingly united to the cosmic consciousness in knowledge, emotion and even appreciation through the senses, it might become purely recipient and passive, remote from mastery and action in the world. So one is happy with Atmarati, as it is called. One is happy and content within oneself. One seeks nothing further because one has found the soul. So all these are possibilities which he is describing to us. But separate inwardly from the world movement, losing its individuality in its source. It might return to that source with a capital S and have neither the will nor the power any further for that which was its ultimate mission here, to lead the nature also towards its divine realization. And this is known in all tradition. Sri Ramakrishna uses the word, there are two types of souls. One is Jiva Koti and the other is Ishvara Koti. So Jiva Koti go up the ladder, and when it discovers, it looks up and sees, oh, that other bird is happy. It just goes there. But Ishwar Koti go up and come down for the work. And the mother says the same thing in another way, that there are ordinary souls which want to come out of the manifestation. But there are heroic souls who take a plunge into it because they want to transform this manifestation, because somewhere they feel the aspiration for terrestrial transformation, that life should grow beautiful, divine, harmonious, happy and perfect. And so they are not dissuaded by appearances. They labor and struggle. Mother uses the word heroic souls. Otherwise, ordinarily, life is like this, always it will be like this, let's go back, find your gate, find your source. So another place she also uses the word weak souls. So that's why Sri Aurobindo says, I have not come here to create mutts or sannyasis. What is I have come here for? He says, I have come here to call the souls of the strong for the Leela of Krishna and Kali. Not to run away or escape, but then to each soul its own possibility or destiny. For the psychic being came into nature from the self, the divine, and it can turn back from nature to the silent divine through the silence of the self and a supreme spiritual immobility. Again, an eternal portion of the divine, this part is by the law of the infinite inseparable from its divine whole. This part is indeed itself that whole, so it feels that wholeness. It's like already found God, let's put it like that. But God's work, that's God's problem. It's found it's God. That's why Mother would say to find the divine and to serve the divine. Service never ceases, because until this world becomes that ultimate truth, triumphs here and all is beauty and delight, it cannot rest. But otherwise, there are psychic beings which want to go back. And Sri Aurobindo says, as described in the Upanishad, as no bigger than a man's thumb. So, all these possibilities also, last 7-8 lines from below. Or it may become aware of its eternal companion and elect to live forever in his presence. I have found my Krishna. That's it. What shall I seek? What shall I care? What shall I bother about what's happening in the world? It's all ignorance, it's maya, it's illusion, it's karma, call it whatever. So it may even choose that destiny, eternal companion. One is always with the divine. All these experiences come in this yoga. But there is something yet more, and that's what Sri Aurobindo will reveal to us. And elect to live forever in his presence, in an imperishable union and oneness, as the eternal lover with the eternal beloved. Also it may transit to another world and live there, like Narad, certain celestial beings. Which of all spiritual experiences is the most intense in beauty and rapture? To constantly live in the company of the divine. How intense and rapturous. And yet even that one has to go beyond it for the work of the divine. Mother's experience, we know, of course, that's at another level altogether. She would walk in the veranda of the guest house, playground. And as she would walk, she sees Krishna would walk with him, because Sri Aurobindo is all intensely concentrated on the supermind. And she would say, this is so blissful. And then Sri Krishna obviously knew She says, I wish it would be with Sri Aurobindo. And she knew Sri Krishna is a way of Sri Aurobindo showing to himself to her. And so Sri Aurobindo came. And she would walk with Sri Aurobindo. Of course, not he is sitting there, but in his inner self. Then she says that she had a thought one day. It is so blissful. Why any work and all? I should all labor. She says, and Sri Aurobindo stopped coming, vanished. So the mother says, okay, not Sri Krishna, not Sri Aurobindo, Supreme himself. And she says, Supreme came. So she writes it very beautifully. First Krishna, then Sri Aurobindo, then the Supreme. But by then she knew that no, I'm here for the work. So that's the great renunciation we see even of Sri Aurobindo. And of course the mother, impelled by the divine love to serve the divine. Otherwise it's enough. To find the divine, actually it's, in a way, one line of yogic development is over. But to serve the divine in his manifestation, that is another line, which that option is open now. All these are great and splendid achievements of our spiritual self-finding, but they are not necessarily the last and entire consummation. More is possible. Because they are still achieved through the spiritual mind which divides, creates a gulf between world and God. So while one is soaring in these higher regions of the spiritual mind, one can have a glimpse of this and feel very happy and withdraw from that door. Next page. But beyond this, somewhere in the middle, but beyond this movement of spiritual mind is the higher experience of the supermind, truth consciousness. There these opposites disappear. What are the opposites? World and God, creation and creator. This gulf that the spiritual mind creates. Even at the highest, anityam asukham lokam bhajasvamam. This world will forever be this transient suffering world. But in the super mind, all the opposites, even good and evil, all that are united, but transformed. Good changes into a greater good, evil changes into its original, that force of the divine. So it changes. So that's why he says for the creation. And therefore he says, it is this that is the aim we have conceived, the consummation of our existence here, by an ascent to the supramental truth consciousness and its descent into our nature. The psychic transformation after rising into the spiritual change has then to be completed, integralized, exceeded and uplifted by supramental transformation. So psychic changes, love for the divine, beatitude, inner joy, inner peace, even an inner knowledge which begins to come through the door of the psychic, and of course truth, good, beauty. Spiritual changes where one begins to experience the self, the divine as eternal companion. This, he says, is the most rapturous and most intense consummation. And then the supramental change, which is the last and penultimate. And that he says something very interesting, that it may happen that one may discover the inner psychic entity, and if one doesn't care to put its pressure on nature and transform it, there are other possibilities. Even in a spiritual mind, one may enter into the spiritual mind. But if one abandons nature to the play of the ego, normally the ego defends. It has got its own mechanism by which it says, this is good, this is bad, this is evil, this is pleasant. Now that fence is broken because you have entered into that spiritual mind. So what may happen? Page 243. This egocentrism is our rock of safety against the cosmic at the infinite. That's how we make a selection of what is self and what is not self. But in our spiritual change, we have to forego this defense. Ego has to vanish. The person finds itself dissolved into a vast impersonality. And in the impersonality, there is at first no key to an ordered dynamism of action. Now, initially it was your little house. Now you are given to take care of a whole state or a nation. Your own house, little house, you can do things. But in nation, whom will you say? What will you say? Nobody is ready to listen. So you are the same person, but you don't have the means to handle that. So then what happens? Shobindo reminds us a very usual result is that one is divided into two parts of being, the spiritual within, the natural without. So looking at the surface personality, one will never get to know what's going on inside. And even more can happen. Now this of course, Shankaracharya has also mentioned the four things that may happen to a person who is inwardly awake. But his outer nature remains as it is. But it becomes worse because the ego is no more acting. Normally, ego will prevent certain things. Because good and bad, right and wrong. Now, when that is gone, but inwardly one is awake, so what happens? So, we have somewhere in the middle, page 243. Even if there is an entire dissolution of the limited person and the old egocentric order, the outer nature may become the field of an apparent incoherence, although all within is luminous with the self. So this is one possibility where what we call as the luminous mad. The actions of such a person one cannot understand. Why one is acting and behaving the way one is. In the ashram context, I have seen some people who have become that because outer nature remains different. But inwardly one is very luminous inside. But you have to communicate. It cannot be. Although all within is luminous, thus we become outwardly inert and inactive. Jadavat. Moved by circumstances or forces but not self-mobile. One may become inert. Outward nature is stunned, shocked by the inner state. It does not know what to do. All around this open to cosmic consciousness, it becomes inert. Jadvat. My own impression is also some of the people who toward the older age go through, that nature enters into these modes. Or forces but not self-mobile, even though the consciousness is enlightened within. So there can be unmatvat and there is jadavat. Or as a child, though within is a plenary self-knowledge. If you see the behavior of a person, like a child you are behaving. Grow up, grow mature, but inner state is very different. And one is conscious within, but the outer is behaving like a baby. So all standards, yardsticks that as an adult, mature adult, you are supposed to behave in certain society, in places in a certain way, those proprieties, all that fall away. One is no more acting according to social standards, conventional moral standards, because they are gone. So that is Balvat. You see how Sri Ramakrishna, even there is a talk which is going to, he has to talk to people, decide. And what a realization. I mean, without a doubt, among the greatest, not among the great, among the greatest. If only someone who has surpassed him, it is Sri Aurobindo. So we see that suddenly this is documented by him, his own, that beautiful Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrit. So he goes and tells Sarda Ma, how much time more this prawn pakoda will take? She says, wait, you are so impatient, wait, I am making it. No, I have to go and talk to them, they are waiting. Now you see, if you read this, you can't understand that Sri Ramakrishna, like a baby, is going and telling, where is the prawn pakoda? He was fond of it. So you can't understand this behavior unless you understand that the nature goes. He was like a child. Somebody tells him something, goes and tells Ma Kali. He is telling me like this. He is saying all these experiences are not real. Tell me, mother, is it true or not? So Mother Kali danced whole night in front of that person till he got Totapuri. Yes. He said all these experiences of all, you have to go Brahma Jnana, all this, Kali, you are seeing all this is images. So he went and told the Divine Mother, Kali. He said, I am seeing you so real, so concrete, but this fellow is thinking like this. So Totapuri says next day, what did you do? This is why? Whole night Kali was dancing in front of me. I got convinced that she exists. Or when he's dancing, there's a beautiful picture of Sri Ramakrishna, when he's dancing, that pose. You can feel Kali in her ecstasy. And suddenly he slaps. Whom does he slap? Rani Rasmani, who is actually given the money for the temple. Because she had a vision of visitation of Kali. That now I want to be here. Because she wanted to make a Bhavya temple for her somewhere. She says, no, you renovate this very temple because my child is going to come here. So she renovates. Now he slaps her. Can you imagine this? And when people asked, why did he do this? He said, I know why he did it. He was dancing in ecstasy with Kali. And I was thinking of the court case. Another time when somebody gave him a shawl, suddenly he took it for a moment, then he threw it on the floor and started jumping on it and putting it in mud. So, after some time, he says very gently, sir, Thakur, hey, Pashmina ache. It is Pashmina, very expensive. He says, Dekha. He says that he has given, he has not given. He could see. So, he says he has given, he has not given. He is wanting me to appreciate. He is wanting me, he is still his. Otherwise, what I do with it is my business. So all this is possible, but this is not the yoga of Sri Aurobindo, where even the outer has to be transformed. But these are phases through which one may go through. And then he says, or as one inconsequent in thought and impulse, though within is an utter calm and serenity, or as the wild and disordered soul, though inwardly there is the purity and poise of the spirit. What is that last phase called? Like a ghoul, pishachvat. There are yogis who behave like that. Suddenly Vilihari came laughing. There was one which used to go from Pondicherry, from the guest house to Tiruvannamalai, doing circumambulating and then would come back. One day suddenly he comes inside and rushes up the stairs. Before people can stop, he is in front of Sri Aurobindo, picks up the tea and does it like this, ulta, and then runs back. Everybody, what is this fellow done? But Sri Aurobindo smiles, he says, yes, Divine Mother had sent him. There was something which he was solving, it was the solution. But if you look at behavior, action, you can't understand. Like a ghoul, disorder, chaotic, because nature is unable to now bear that light, that effulgence. It can break down. So that's why in this yoga, double perfection. One has to also work upon nature. And then few lines below, last 4 lines from below. So it is like a king with incapable ministers, a knowledge expressed in the values of the ignorance. Only the descent of the supermind with its perfect unity of truth knowledge and truth will can establish in the outer as in the inner existence the harmony of the spirit, for it alone can turn the values of the ignorance entirely into the values of knowledge. So that's why the supermind, psychic transformation is the first step. Psychic realization means no more to identify with the desired soul, but not leave it at the mercy of, because as we have seen, if one is satisfied by discovering just the divine within, or dwell in some spiritual mind, then there are risks. If one opens to the cosmic consciousness, then whole thing can be chaotic, or like a child. Chaotic is the worst, of course, outward. Or like a baby, child, not caring about anything outward. How a child is not bothered about any social norms. Whether it be eating, even, his natural calls, urges, or saying something to someone. Child does not care. He's like a baby, enjoying in that. Or like a stone, fixed. Or like a madman. So these are things which nature may undergo. So that's why one should not forcibly draw anyone in the yoga. When the psychic is ready, the call goes and one comes, and then one grows. And that's why it's important to be constantly surrendering oneself, and most importantly, The mother speaks of the double perfection. It's not enough just to work inside, but also ensure that there is the adaptation taking place with the outer nature. Otherwise, if the outer nature is unable to adapt, certain difficulties may come up from the cosmic consciousness. Things in nature may burst open, which one is not equipped to deal with. Ultimately, if one is surrender and one is sincere that one has to transform everything, then it will go away. But that passage may be difficult and even chaotic. So, first stop for us is the psychic transformation, psychic discovery of the psychic being, and the psychic transformation consequently. So, we'll stop here and meet in February, 22nd February. We'll just have a little music followed by some prasad, the books, and then we'll disperse.